It was supposed to be a peaceful morning flight from Atlanta to Paris. Passengers settled into their seats, coffee in hand, excitement in the air. But when two elegantly dressed black women stepped into first class, whispers began. The flight attendant's eyes narrowed. Her smile faded into condescension. She leaned toward a co-worker, muttering words she thought no one would hear. What happened next would shake the airline to its core, spark a viral outrage, and prove that respect has nothing to do with status, but everything to do with humanity. Watch till the end. Wait a second. Tell us where you're watching from in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories like this. Maya and Danielle were best friends, accomplished, confident, and unstoppable. Both had worked their way up from humble beginnings to become senior executives for one of the world's top airlines. Their success wasn't handed to them. It was earned through late nights, sacrifices, and resilience. This trip was memorable, an unannounced inspection flight to experience the airline's first-class service from the passenger's perspective. No one on board knew who they were, not even the cabin crew. As the boarding door closed, the atmosphere shifted. Some passengers smiled warmly, while others seemed surprised to see two black women settling into first-class seats. Maya noticed it instantly, the stares, the subtle frowns, and the forced politeness. But she ignored it, adjusting her seatbelt. She didn't know that within minutes, an encounter would test every lesson she'd ever learned about grace under pressure. As the aircraft prepared for takeoff, the head flight attendant, Clara, began her routine service checks. She was known for being sharp, efficient, and, as some quietly whispered, judgmental. When she reached Maya and Danielle's row, her expression tightened. "Are you sure you're in the right seats?" she asked, voice dripping with false concern. Maya smiled politely. "Yes, these are our seats." Clara hesitated, then forced a grin. "Of course," she said, before walking away with a muttered comment that sounded like upgrade mistake. The tension didn't go unnoticed. The man sitting across the aisle raised an eyebrow, shaking his head in disbelief. A few minutes later, Clara returned with drinks, champagne for others, but water for them. "Company policy," she said dismissively. Danielle's eyes widened, but Maya placed a calming hand on her friend's arm. She'd seen this kind of behavior before, quiet racism disguised as procedure. But today wasn't about confrontation. It was about observation. Then Clara made the biggest mistake of her career. She leaned over to another attendant and whispered, loud enough for passengers nearby to hear, "You'd think they'd save first class for paying customers? Not charity cases." Gasps spread through the cabin. A man began recording on his phone. Danielle looked stunned, her hands trembling slightly. But Maya stayed calm, her gaze fixed on Clara, not with anger, but with a quiet power that made everyone else in the cabin fall silent. 30 minutes later, turbulence hit, and the captain's calm voice came over the speaker. But the voice wasn't unfamiliar. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain Harris speaking, joined today by our onboard executive director, Ms. Maya Carter." A ripple of shock ran through the cabin. Clara's face drained of color. She turned toward Maya, realization dawning too late. The two passengers she had mocked weren't just customers. They were senior executives conducting a surprise audit of her crew. Every whisper, every dismissive glance, every act of bias had been seen, recorded and witnessed. Clara stammered, her words collapsing into silence. The rest of the cabin watched in stunned quiet as Maya slowly turned her head, locking eyes with her. For the first time, Clara truly understood who she had disrespected and what that would cost her. When the plane landed, Clara was escorted to the manager's office, trembling, tearful, and speechless. Maya didn't demand her firing. Instead, she demanded reform. She pushed for new diversity training, anonymous feedback systems, and stricter accountability for bias in service. Within weeks, the airline issued a public apology and launched a company-wide inclusion initiative. The viral video of that flight sparked conversations across the world about how prejudice hides behind professionalism and how respect should never depend on appearances. As Maya later said in an interview, it wasn't about revenge, it was about reflection. Because racism doesn't just live in loud insults, it often hides in quiet moments, polite smiles, and unchecked assumptions. How many more people must experience humiliation before humanity learns to see beyond skin? Where are you watching from? Take care.